This is Standing Watch. And now, Evangelist Norbert Link.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. The U.S. Sun wrote on March 3 about the UK. Security officials fear the possibility of a rise in extremist activity during the month of Ramadan in the Muslim world, which starts next Sunday. They're talking about the evening of Sunday, March 10, if on that day a new moon is sighted. And then it would last until Tuesday, April 9, 2024. The article goes on to say, one MP with knowledge of the latest briefings told the Daily Mail, the level of extremist chatter on the internet is off the scale. This is something they have seen growing and growing. It's like when the Twin Towers came down in 2001, there was a big spike of hate. Former Home Office Minister Robert Jenrick also warned today that the police and intelligence services are too stretched to deal with the cancer of Islamist extremism. Currently, the country's terrorism threat level is substantial, the third highest state of alert, indicating an attack is likely. The Evening Standard added on March 3, security officials have warned MPs that the war in Gaza has raised the threat of a terror attack on UK soil. They revealed in a private meeting with politicians that spies had intercepted the volume of messages from potential terrorists that had not been seen since the 9/11 attack on the United States. And then today, March 7, the National News UK wrote this. The threat of a potential terrorist attack is rising rapidly and has led to a heightened sense that Britain could become a target because of the government's pro-Israel position. While the current terrorism threat level is substantial, Britain's third highest state that indicates an attack is likely, questions are being asked whether it should be raised to severe, which suggests an attack is highly likely. Extremists have a grievance narrative concerning Britain because it is seen as a legitimate target for terrorists due to its alliance with the United States and Israel. And that tells you that the threats are not just directed against the UK alone. They also include Israel. They also include, of course, the United States of America and other English-speaking countries. Breitbart wrote on March 3, leaders of the major Palestinian terror groups have called for Arab states and the Muslim world to engage in terror during the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Arab and Muslim states have fought many wars on Ramadan, notably the Yom Kippur War of 1973, when Egyptian soldiers broke their fasts and crossed the Suez Canal. Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz said that Ramadan would be the deadline for a hostage deal and warned that Israel will invade the southern Gaza town of Rafah near the Egyptian border if Hamas does not agree to a deal. And right now it doesn't look like there's going to be a deal before Ramadan. And if Israel invades, you can only imagine the consequences, what is going to happen in that part of the world, and not just only in that part of the world. Now, we are not saying that a major terror attack will happen during the month of Ramadan 2024, but we are saying that major terror attacks, terrorist attacks, will happen, because the Bible very clearly prophesies those attacks. We have been hearing a little bit today about 9/11. And there's a prophecy in the Bible which seems to indicate the situation regarding 9/11. But it's an end-time prophecy, which means these events will happen again, and in a much worse scenario. We read in Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 25. There will be on every high mountain and on every high hill rivers and streams of water in the day, always a reference to the time just prior to Christ's return, in the day of the great slaughter, when the towers fall. Another end-time prophecy can be found in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 25, again directed at the peoples of the United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, other English-speaking countries, perhaps South Africa, Zimbabwe. This is what this prophecy has to tell you. The sword shall destroy outside, there shall be terror within, for the young man and virgin, the nursing child with the man of gray hairs. And another end-time prophecy, expressing pretty much the same thing, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15 and verse 8. I will cause anguish and terror to fall on them suddenly. It will happen suddenly. Now those who have eyes to see and ears to hear and who are watching the events, it's not going to be suddenly and surprisingly, but for most people in the world it will be, because they're not watching. They don't know what to watch for. So the question then, my friends, is this: will terror attacks ever cease? Will the fear of terror attacks ever cease? There's a beautiful prophecy for the time after Christ has returned to establish the kingdom of God here on this earth. And this prophecy can be found in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verses 13 and 14. And it applies to really all of mankind, everyone who is living at that time. It says this: all your children shall be taught by the Lord, and great shall be the peace of your children. In righteousness you shall be established. You shall be far from oppression, for you shall not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near you. Now this is for everyone at that time. But what about today? What about you and me? Is there a promise from God telling us that we don't have to fear either terrorist attacks? Yes, there is. We find this very encouraging promise in the book of Psalms, Psalm 91, verses 2 to 7. Of course, a requirement is included here. Our relationship with God has to be right. It says, I will say to the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. And then in verse 5, you shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. My friends, there is a reason why you exist. There's a reason why God has created you. You have a future. You have a potential. There is a destiny in store for you. Do you know what that destiny is? Why would God leave you alone when you have a close relationship with Him so that you cannot fulfill your destiny? It makes no sense. We have prepared a free booklet. It is entitled, God is Our Destiny. I would strongly encourage you to read it carefully, to study the scriptures we are quoting in this booklet, because it will give you much encouragement and much hope for these present days and of course also for the future. Thank you very much for listening. This is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.
Standing Watch is a presentation by The Church of the Eternal God, P.O. Box 270519, San Diego, California, 92198. More information is also available at our website, eternalgod.org.